What's up, everyone? This is Deadweight Entertainment. Right now, I'm going to create a blog of some sorts, at least that's what I think it is, on fantasy football. Depending on what league you're in, what the rules are, mostly what I'm going to be going with is standard scoring. In our particular league with the rules, we amp up the quarterbacks. So, your top 5 quarterbacks are going to come off the board. I don't have, like always, it seems to be a running theme with me, the software and programs that I need to write everything down like I would like to. And then obviously that would give you something to look over. This is my first look at anything with fantasy football. I have a couple of sites that I like to go to. I do have a book currently. So in your standard leagues, essentially your first round picks are going to be your running backs. The reason why you're going to pick your running backs is just because of the opportunities they have, and then of course based on your scoring system, make sure that's probably the most important thing, is to make sure you understand your scoring system as thoroughly as possible. In our particular scoring system, our quarterbacks get 1 point for every 25 yards they throw. So ultimately, and it makes sense to me, our quarterbacks are the top scorers in the game. They touch the ball every time. They should be. That's my opinion. I love the way we score things. So, when we go with that, if you have that sort of system set up, and here's where you want to keep an eye on things. I don't necessarily go off of just one person and what they say and what they think. I look at 2 or 3 different sites, and I use my brain. Obviously, for your quarterback, how good is he? How is his receivers? How is his offensive line? Who did they draft? That sort of thing. That always plays into it, I think, a little more so later on down the line when you're drafting. So, obviously, as quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers is going to be your number 1 quarterback. He just is. He's unbelievable. Plus, his team, they were able to hang on to Randall Cobb in their second-round pick last year. Davante Adams is really, he did a good job. He made third-string wide receiver, the number 3 spot, quite comfortably. And now keep in mind there's the sophomore slump, which it's real. You know what I mean? So Davante Adams would make a good late round pick, simply because Aaron Rodgers is throwing him the ball. And then along with that, obviously, hopefully watch the movie. You'll understand that our offensive line is pretty BA, or I should say the Green Bay Packers offensive line is pretty BA, along with obviously Eddie Lacy. And if you noticed, or if you had the opportunity to see, last year was Eddie Lacy's second year, which is the sophomore slump. And then you'll notice, of course, how towards the end of the year, like his comfort level and his skill set, his overall play became quite a bit better. So Eddie Lacy is over the sophomore slump, and I think most sites have him going number 1 off the board. He's a big guy. He's one of the biggest running backs in the NFL. That's significant, because after a while of trying to tackle that big a guy, it wears on you. It gets exhausting. I apologize. Like I said, this is my first time looking at this, so it's going to be a bit rough. I would give you the stats on Eddie Lacy, but just know that he's one of the bigger running backs in the NFL, and it wears on the team to have to try to keep tackling them. So in your standard leagues, obviously you're going to want to pick running backs. Now there's Aaron Rodgers. Now Andrew Luck. They they did a lot in the draft, or not the draft, in the offseason. Everything is really unorganized. I'm doing things a lot differently this year. But I know they did pick up some new receivers. So Andrew Luck would be my number 2 quarterback. Now, I guess some sites have Russell Wilson going up as a quarterback. Now, I would like to point out what he's done is amazing. His rookie season, he won the Super Bowl. His sophomore slump, he almost won the Super Bowl. And when I say he, I mean, obviously him and his team. Now, as far as quarterbacks go, I know he can run the ball. He's a super smart quarterback. I don't know how many passing yards he'll put up, along with the fact that they have Marshawn Lynch. Now, he does add value because of his legs. And then you have Peyton Manning, who's Peyton Manning. Now, he's getting older. I don't know if you had the opportunity to watch, but you could see signs of fatigue later on in the season, or as the season progressed, because he's getting older. That's just what happens. He wasn't as sharp. Now it's still Peyton Manning. He's still amazing. They did lose Julius Thomas, their tight end, so that is going to be significant. But at the same time, C.J. Anderson, I think, is going to be super amazing as far as a running back goes. So that's going to take a lot of pressure off the quarterback. Now, of course, you got Drew Brees. You can never take away from him. Now, in a lot of scenarios, I guess I haven't stayed in touch with what's going on with Tom Brady. But Tom Brady's Tom Brady. I know he has been inconsistent in the last couple of years, so I'm not all that excited about him. The quarterbacks I would mostly be excited about: Aaron Rodgers, Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees. Those guys for sure. Now, so if I was I'm just going to talk to you about my league because that's what I know best. So in my league, if it's in that we are actually in a keeper league and I have Aaron Rodgers, so that's an easy choice. But if we were in a keeper league, in a fresh redraft league, so round 1, the top players that I think would go would be Aaron Rodgers, Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, and those are your for sure guys. Now, another guy that is a for sure guy, I think, is Matt Ryan. I haven't had the opportunity to look into where their offensive line is at. I do know that their offensive line was banged up last year, but he's an amazing quarterback. I believe they drafted to beef up the defense, which is good. That's going to make a big difference. Obviously their offensive line was pretty beat up last year. So, having said that, I like Matt Ryan. He obviously has Julio Jones to throw to, and he's one of the premier wide receivers in the league, in my opinion. So, I like Matt Ryan. Matthew Stafford, he has Calvin Johnson, obviously, and a few other people to throw to. And then I like what they did in Detroit. They're just going to go with, from what I understand, they're just going to go with Drake Bell for the majority of the carries, which is funny because I don't know why they didn't do it sooner. He can pretty much do it all, and he's a heavy hitter. He can give him the ball 30 times. He can handle it. So I like what they did there. So obviously Drake Bell's running up on my list as far as running backs go. I don't know that everybody sees it that way, but that's my thoughts. And then after that, I guess this is going to be sort of a quick intro video. So after that, we can cover more later. There's a lot of variables, but those are probably my top picks. Those would probably be my first round picks in my league as far as running backs go, quarterbacks. And then after that, essentially the first round, the second round, and even the third round, what I like to how I like to draft is I like to draft a guy that I'm just going to put him in every week, and that's it. He's just going to play. There's no question about it. The third and fourth round is where that's where the research comes in. So the first, second rounders are generally no brainers. So that was that with the quarterbacks. And after that, there's not a whole lot of elite quarterbacks out there. Now we can get into the running backs, where there is a plethora of, well, not plethora, but there is, obviously running backs are running backs. Now, some sites will have Adrian Peterson coming off the board number one. Adrian Peterson, because Adrian Peterson, I don't think he's human. If you ask me, I don't think he's human. And he's also had a full year to rest. Now, in some scenarios, with younger players, sitting for a year isn't good. In his case, sitting for a year, he's going to have a lot more juice this year, and it's AP. Now, I do know I haven't had him in any leagues, but I believe he has had injury problems towards the end of the season. Now adding to that, they also have, God, it's escaped me completely, Teddy Bridgewater, which is going to take a lot of pressure off of AP, so they're not going to have to run him as much. So he's not going to be banged up and as injury prone as he maybe has been in the end of the season. But my number one pick overall, and I think most people would share this with me, is going to be Eddie Lacy. Like I mentioned earlier, for a lot of reasons. One, he's a big dude. Two, he's got Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball. So who do you cover? Who do you stop? You have to try to stop Aaron Rodgers. You can't really do it. So that opens up lanes for Eddie Lacy. He's a young guy, third year. He's ready. This guy's gonna hammer the ball, and he's gonna hit you, and he's gonna hammer you. He can catch, and from what I understand, they're gonna get a lot more plays in there to throw him the ball. He's a 3-down back. He's a 4-down back. However you want to call it, he can do it all. So Eddie Lacy, in my opinion, should come off the board number one as far as running backs. And then there's AP. You can never go wrong. He is getting older. But he's AP, but at what point do you let him go? I like Le'Veon Bell. I don't know. I guess there is some issues with him as far as when he starts. But as far as talent goes, he's got it. I'm not real big on Ben Roethlisberger as a quarterback, but he still manages to get the job done. So in that scenario, you got Ben Roethlisberger throwing the ball, Le'Veon Bell running the ball. And you do have Antonio Brown catching the ball, and he can catch the ball and burn you for 100 yards, So I like Le'Veon Bell. If I had the choice, it would be Eddie Lacy, Le'Veon Bell. And from there, it gets a little bit tough, in my opinion. Now there's a whole bunch of big time running backs that are going to get the job done. Some of them are getting older, and then some of them don't have that good of a team. So in my picks, I'm going to go with Eddie Lacy 1. I'd probably go with Le'Veon Bell 2. Now here's one that's going to throw you for a bit of a loop, and there isn't a whole lot of sites that would do this. I think that I would go with C.J. Anderson for my number 3 running back, which is a little bit different than what a lot of people say. That's what I would go with. And then another one, which this is why I lost in my league. The only reason I lost, the one game I lost in my league last year, I'm going to go with Jeremy Hill, running back for Cincinnati. Now, I know, and my brain stopped working. I know he's not going to be the only one getting the ball, but the kid can run. Now, he is into the sophomore slump, which, again, it is my experience that is legitimate, but I think the kid's got a great future ahead of him. I'm not too big on, again, my brain can't think of it. I'm just starting the quarterback. I do like their wide receivers. There's obviously, whatever, my brain doesn't work. AJ Green, but there was another kid on there, and I had him for a few games last year when AJ Green was hurt, and the kid's got a lot of talent. The name escapes me. So, that's why I like Jeremy Hill, because there is potential there offensively to spread the ball around. So who do you cover? Now, in my league, I have Aaron Rodgers, and we get to keep two. Now, here's my dilemma. I have DeMarco Murray. Obviously, he went bananas last year. His biggest problem was not his lack of talent. It was whether or not he could stay healthy. I think that's part of the reason why Dallas let him go, is because he had a crazy good year. He's also been injury prone, and I don't know the specifics on it, but they didn't want to pay the money to keep him. Now, he was running behind, I'm not for sure on this, but something in my brain tells me that Dallas, like the last 3 years prior to that, or 4 years, I don't know, their first round pick was an offensive lineman. I can't think of it off the top of my head. The point is DeMarco Murray was running behind a really good offensive line, which that's your offense right there. Now they also brought in Ryan Matthews. Now Ryan Matthews is very injury prone, and Darren Sproles. Now, ultimately, DeMarco Murray's talent abilities exceed all of them, or the other players. And there's also a lot of question marks as far as their aerial attack, from what I can tell. But in my keeper league, I am going to keep DeMarco Murray, simply because of his talent level. He's running behind a super good offensive line as well. And, with Chip Kelly's offense, it's going to be fast. And, he's going to pound the ball. He can do it all. He's definitely a 3-down back. That obviously won't be the case all the time. But so I'm going to keep him. I've forgotten what order I've told you in, but that's the next running back that I'm looking at. Now, you got your guys. I think the next one that catches my eye, and it's a tough call. I guess I got to go with Jamal Charles. Not that that's a tough call. He's obviously got potential. Or, excuse me, I didn't mean that. He's obviously amazing. I just worry about his injuries and, the Kansas City offense as a whole, which is getting better, as they put things together. Plus, they have a tight end that I think is going to do some amazing things this year. And then, of course, Matt Forte. A lot of it is based on opportunity. He is their feature back. Not a lot of teams have simply a feature back like that, but he is the guy, and he's obviously a 3-down, 4-down back. Now, here's the trick, and this is odd. This has been the oddest off season I have ever experienced in my life. I think we have LeSean McCoy now in Buffalo. Now, LeSean McCoy had a horrible year last year. It was absolutely horrible, and he was still in the top 10. So, but he's playing at Buffalo. Now, he's going to get plenty of opportunities to touch the ball, but is their offense going to do what needs to be done? Sammy Watkins, rookie season, amazing wide receiver last year. He's going to be in the sophomore slump, but you still, when you're looking at running backs, you can't deny the guy. You can't deny it that he can get the job done. I think I've already talked about C.J. Anderson. Now, there's your, and this is where I think that it starts to get blurry after this, and this is probably where, you might look to this site and look to maybe what I have to say or think, or the books and websites to really help you with that. And I have to do more research on that. I'm just sort of getting this going here myself. You got Arian Foster, injury prone. Mark Ingram, I think, he's pretty much going to be he's going to take on the feature back role in New Orleans. I think he had some injury issues. There is another running back in there, a kid that he put up good numbers. I'd have to look in the specifics, but it sounds like Mark Ingram is going to be the feature back, obviously then in the high-powered offense with Drew Brees throwing the ball to whoever he wants to. It doesn't matter. It's Drew Brees. So Mark Ingram certainly has the potential. And then you got Justin Forsett in Baltimore. People are putting him where they're putting him. I know he did good last year. Joe Flacco, I've never really thought too highly of, and I don't know a whole lot about that whole scenario. So personally, I wouldn't be looking too forward to Justin Forsett. Now, last year I did have Lamar Miller. If you look at his yards per carry average, it was pretty amazing. I also believe he's in a contract year. He's also an injury-prone player. He's definitely not lacking in talent. I do think they're putting things together a little bit more in Miami, and obviously their defense is right up there. So I like Lamar Miller. If he stays healthy, the sky's the limit, I think. Alfred Morris, solid back. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what team he plays on. It doesn't matter anything. He's not a fast guy. He's just a tough dude with a lot of heart, and he's going to play and he's going to get you points. So he's a solid point getter. He's not going to I don't see him exploding for crazy numbers, but he's going to be a solid guy that you just start him. From there's just a lot of confusing things that I haven't had a lot of opportunity to take a look at, other than, like I mentioned before, Joique Bell. I actually like that guy a lot in the position that he is in. Matthew Stafford is a good quarterback, throwing obviously to Calvin Johnson, and Joique Bell is a 3-down back. Some guys might agree, some might disagree. On this particular segment, I'm going to say he's a 3-down, 4-down back. So that covers a little bit of the running backs, and again, I do apologize, we're sort of winging through this, but I did want to get some fantasy football stuff up here for you. Now, wide receivers, you got to get a guy, like I said, your 1, 2, 3 picks all have to be guys. Oh, and by the way, in my league, we have a quarterback, we have 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, we have 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a kicker, and then our defense is just pick a defense. We don't get into the in-depth defense portion of it like a lot of people do. We don't have the flex position. We don't have, those are all wild cards. We don't do wild cards. We play straight up poker. So, keep that in mind, when I talk to you about the players that I think in the positions and whatnot. So your top 3 picks, that, you got to have a quarterback. If you can't get a good quarterback, you got to have a good running back. So your top 3 picks, 2 solid running backs, a wide receiver. Your top 3 picks, where you just start them. If you can't get a good quarterback, if you can't get a top 5 quarterback, top 4, then get two top 10 running backs. That's going to be huge. So your first 3 picks, 1, 2, 3, quarterback, wide receiver, or quarterback, running back, wide receiver, or running back, wide receiver. And then the 4th round, that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where the guys and girls that have done their research, that's where it separates. Because the 4th round, the 5th round, and the 6th round is really where you have to do your research. Because it's not so obvious, and that's where the guys are going to, that's where you got to really know what you're doing. You got to pick good players. They got to be good players. Can you get a number 1? Can you get a number? Can you get if you don't got 2 running backs? Can you get another number 1 running back? Can you get another number 1 wide receiver? And then there's the Gronk factor. Do you, with your 4th pick, try to get the Gronk? The dude's legit. He was healthy last year. He's a big dude. I have his stats memorized. 6'6", what is he, 6'6", 250, 260? That's a big dude. Obviously, you've seen him play. You've seen him carry 3 people on his back, 5 yards in for a touchdown. So do you do that? If the Gronk is on the board in the 4th round, do I dump the opportunity for possibly another number 1 running back or another number 1 wide receiver? 4th round, they would have to be a really good running back or a really good wide receiver. Otherwise, I'm taking the Gronk because he puts up numbers, like a running back, like a wide receiver. running backs get 1 point. Running backs and wide receivers, tight ends, they get 1 point for every 10 yards. It's 6 points for a touchdown. It's the same, a touchdown's a touchdown. Same with the quarterback; they get 6 points for a touchdown. So if in my league, I've got my first and second picks. We got 2 keepers. It's going to be Aaron Rodgers and then DeMarco Murray. The 3rd round pick. Now I've got to get. I guess I got to see what kind of running back is on the board. If there's still what I think, and you'll have to do your research, is a solid number 1 running back, do I grab him, or do I lock down that number 1, that guaranteed wide receiver? I think that in the 3rd round, I want to just lock down that number 1 wide receiver. I just start him because I don't have to go through all the thought process in player matchups and all of that. So I think that I got my quarterback 1st round, running back DeMarco Murray 2nd round. Now 3rd round, wide receiver. I'm going to go with a wide receiver, and that's all going to depend on who's out there. Now, I think it is what it is. As I look at some of the lists, what I'm going to have to say, and I'm going to have to go back to this again, and you may or may not agree, that's all right. For a wide receiver, okay, a good score is 60 yards and a touchdown. That's easily 1 pass. And that's part of the thing, is wide receivers aren't going to get as much opportunity as a running back unless they've got a high-powered offense. So that's definitely what I'm going to look at, a high-powered, well-balanced offense. An offense that's going to be on the field a lot. And so, okay, who's got the most high-powered offense in the NFL right now? To me, I think it's a no-brainer. I think it's the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball, Eddie Lacy running the ball. So to follow in suit, I got to go with, and not a lot of people would agree with this, which is fine, but I got to go with Jordy Nelson. Now, when I think about wide receivers, he's a big dude. He's one of the bigger wide receivers, which means when push comes to shove, he can go up there, grab the ball, catch the ball and make sure he has the ball and do what he has to do from there. So that's Calvin Johnson's thing. That's Des Bryant's thing. That's Demaryius Thomas's thing. These guys are, solid wide receivers who are going to get the ball from you. They're not going to let you take it from them. Now, Odell Beckham had a ridiculous rookie season. I absolutely despise Eli Manning. I just don't understand him. I don't understand the Giants. But Odell Beckham doesn't have to be all that. He just has to catch the ball, and he can certainly do that. There is the sophomore slump factor. I don't see the Jets as a high-powered offense, but again, a wide receiver just needs, 160-yard catch and touchdown. So Odell Beckham only gets 3 of them. That's a monster game. So, there's that guy. Julio Jones, outstanding athlete. I'm not necessarily ranking these guys in order for you. I'm just sort of sharing my thoughts on all these. Obviously, these are all number 1 wide receivers. My first guy is Jordy Nelson. If I had to choose next, you can't deny Antonio Brown, again, good running back. With that team, Ben Roethlisberger, not the best quarterback, but he's still Ben Roethlisberger, can throw the ball. Des Bryant he just scares me because of his attitude, but you can't deny his talent. So I would go, my next one though would be Calvin Johnson / and or Demaryius Thomas, then maybe Des Bryant, Julio Jones. Julio Jones might slide under the radar because I could even take him as far as wide receivers in the top 5 as well. That offensive line is doing better. Their running game has potential, but is still sort of up in the air. Obviously, A.J. Green, you can't deny that. deny his abilities. Their quarterback isn't the best. It is what it is. Alshon Jeffries, again, you can't deny him. Chicago, a lot of things up in the air. What do you do with all that? It doesn't excite me all that much. You know what I mean? So if these guys slide to me, though, I would take them, depending on who's on the board. Again, of course, you got Mike Evans. Now, in that scenario, you got a lot of up in the airs. You got a lot of unknowns. Doug Martin is healthy and he's back. Obviously, everyone knows what he did his rookie season. They got another guy in there. I forget his name. Whatever. The quarterback situation is up in the air. So I like him. How much do I like him? I don't know. These are just sort of guys I'm throwing up in the air. And this is where, the rubber meets the road and some of the guys you got to look at. After that, not a whole lot of guys excite me. Obviously, T.Y. Hilton is going to be the number one target for Andrew Luck, which that's obviously going to be a big deal. They did bring in Andre Johnson, who's obviously a super talented athlete. Now, I'm not going to say that I'm taking Andre Johnson high on the board, but T.Y. Hilton is the number one guy for a high-powered offense, especially a high-powered throwing offense. So he's definitely in the running for one of my top quarterbacks. So, just as an intro, that's as far as we'll go on that end. Now, tight ends, I got some cool things you might like with that. Obviously, I got Gronkowski, ultimately, number one overall. I'm just looking at a list here. I don't know. That's weird. I don't know that makes any sense. Anyway, Gronkowski. Now, here's some things. Travis, is it Kelsey? I don't know how to read. That's not a problem. The tight end, like I was saying, in Kansas City, that kid's a big kid and a lot of talent. So I'm going to keep an eye on him. I don't know how many people know about him, so definitely check him out. If he slides late, they got Jamal Charles. Check him out. I wouldn't get too excited about too many tight ends this year. Now, here's what I like. The Travis Kelce thing, and here's what I like. A lot of people have Dwayne Allen ranked, Indy wide receiver, ranked above Coby Fleener. Now, Coby Fleener went to college with Andrew Luck. And when Allen was hurt, Fleener was a solid earner. Coby Fleener and Andrew Luck have a lot of history. So I like Coby Fleener. I like him, or I'm hoping he's a guy that flies under the radar. Obviously, if I can get the Gronk in the fourth round, I'm doing it. Otherwise, I think I like Coby Fleener as my number two guy. Antonio Gates is still in the mix, but at the same time, they got another young guy, Ladarius Green. Obviously, you can't take away from Gates and who he is and what he does and his relationship with Phillip Rivers, but he is getting older and he is injury prone. So, Ladarius Green might be the guy to step in and fill his shoes. You've got, Jordan Cameron playing on a much better team this year in Miami. He's certainly someone that looks worth someone looking at. These are guys that I'm just throwing out there. Martellus Bennett has definite solid potential earner. Unfortunately, their offense is not really solidified. Jason Witten, I don't know if I've mentioned him at all. Now, Julius Thomas went to Jacksonville. I think I seen a thing on Jacksonville. They just have had the most horrible luck in the history of the NFL as far as first round draft picks go. I don't even know for sure who their quarterback is right now. I haven't looked into it much. Obviously, Julius Thomas has a lot of potential. He has had some injury issues, and after that didn't do a whole lot for the Denver Broncos. So, I don't know that I'm too excited about him, but he is somebody to keep an eye on because he has a high ceiling, if you will. So that's sort of it. I think for now that covers it. That gives you some general ideas. After that, kickers and defense, you can go ahead and draft them. But I usually, depending on the defense, To be honest with you, I've had some pretty top tier defenses that I didn't draft. They went undrafted. I picked them up in the second or third week. I generally try not to do a whole lot until week 3, with as far as dropping players and adding players and whatnot, because that's the NFL, and one of the things you got to be careful of is getting manic and crazy about it and dropping players and adding players. So anyway, that gives you that's sort of my thoughts on it. We'll see. Hopefully, you get a chance to check this out. We'll see how you did. I have had a lot of success, so I'll have to look into this more. But that's the general plan of how I view things and how I might get in and drafting them. So I hope this helps. And I certainly plan on doing a lot more of this stuff because I love fantasy football, and I will definitely be making some more videos. So I hope we get a chance to see some more. And anything you see, if you do watch this, any comments you have, questions, thoughts, if you could share them, that would be excellent. I always love to talk with people, hear their thoughts, go over things. There's stuff I don't think of, and things that I do, and I love talking and hearing what other people have to say, and just expanding my whole concept and learning ability or whatever. I might not be using the right words, but anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely throw some comments at me, questions, comments, concerned. Subscribe to this channel, like this video, share this video. In other words, or otherwise, I look forward to seeing you more, and it's football season has begun. So I'll see you soon.